After what felt like hours, the physician finally bandaged Ike's shoulder tightly and gave him a draught of a sleeping potion to ease his pain. He will live, the physician announced. The bullet missed his heart and lungs, but he has lost blood and he needs rest and good care to heal properly. The princess bowed her head in gratitude. Thank you so much. The king gave a sigh of relief. Thank the gods, he said quietly. He stepped closer to look at Ike's pale face. Now that the danger had passed for the moment, anger crept into the king's voice as he asked, but why was he with those criminals? If he is truly the one who saved you long ago, why would he come back to harm us now? Princess Obioma shook her head firmly. Father, I do not believe he wanted to harm us. You saw what he did. He protected me. Please let him explain when he wakes. I'm sure there is an explanation. He doesn't seem like a bad person. The queen gently touched her husband's arm. We owe him our daughter's life, so why is over? Let us not judge him until we hear his story. The king nodded slowly, his features softening as he gazed at Ike, who was now resting peacefully, thanks to the sleeping potion. Yes, we will wait. For now, he's our guest and will watch over him. That night, Princess Obioma refused to leave Ike's side. The king and queen, seeing their daughter's determination, allowed her to stay in the clinic room while they went to reassure the rest of the household that the danger was over. Guards were posted around the palace, and the alarm spread that thieves had attacked but fled. In the quiet hours before dawn, as Ike slept fitfully, Princess Obioma stared by his bed, gently wiping his brow with a cool cloth. She thought about the strange twist of fate, how Ikemefuna had appeared in her life again at the very moment she was in peril. She remembered clearly the day at the river. She had been just 16, trying to learn to swim with some cousins, when a strong current pulled her in. She had been so sure she would drown, but then strong arms had lifted her up and brought her to shore. Coughing and crying, she had looked up to see the face of the village youth she didn't recognize. He had shyly told her she would be alright and then slipped away once her relatives arrived, not even staying to be thanked properly. Obioma had forgotten those kind eyes, but she never learned his name back then. It was only later, through asking around in Udi, that her relatives told her his name was Ikemefuna, a farmer's son. Now, here he was, older and still brave and selfless, having saved her life again. Her heart swelled with gratitude and a deep growing admiration for Ike. The next morning, sunlight filtered gently into the clinic room where Ike lay. He woke up slowly, blinking at the unfamiliar ceiling of woven raffia. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then, the ache in his shoulder reminded him, and all the memories of the night before flooded back. The robbery, the gunshot, the princess he saved. He turned his head and was surprised to see Princess Obioma sitting on a stool beside his bed. She had fallen asleep with her head resting on the bed, her hand still holding his. As Ike stared, the princess woke up, lifting her head, realizing he was awake. Ikemefuna, she exclaimed softly, relief and joy on her face. You are awake. How do you feel? Ike winced slightly as he tried to sit up, and Princess Obioma quickly placed a cushion behind him to help him. I'm all right, Your Highness, he said, his voice hoarse, just a little sore. There is no need for formalities, she said kindly. You can call me Obioma. Her smile was warm, but her eyes were moist, as if she had been crying. Thank you for saving my life again. Ike shook his head humbly. I'm just glad you are safe. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I was part of last night's fright. I never meant for any of this to happen. Princess Obioma gently squeezed Ike's hand. I know. I want to understand what happened. How did you end up with those bad men? Ike took a deep breath and explained everything to her. His voice filled with regret. He told her about Obaino's promise of farm work, about traveling to Isu, believing it was honest labor, and then the horrible moment when he learned the truth and was threatened. As he spoke, tears of frustration gathered in his eyes. I didn't want to steal or hurt anyone. They said they would kill me if I refused. I thought of my sister and I was so frightened. I'm not a bad person, princess. Please believe me. I do believe you, Ikemefuna, Princess Obioma said softly. She reached out and wiped a tear that had escaped down Ike's cheek. You have a good heart. You risked your life to protect me, someone you barely know. That tells me more about your character than anything else. Ike felt a wave of relief at her words. Your kindness. I don't know how to thank you, Princess Obioma. She smiled. You have thanked me enough by waking up. I was so worried about you. She stood up and adjusted the shawl around her elegant dress. I should tell my parents that you are awake. They wanted to speak with you when you felt better. Will you be alright for a moment? Ike nodded. Yes, of course. As she turned to go, Ike remembered something urgent. The others, Okeke, Ifeatu and Obaino, they escaped. They might still be around. Princess Obioma's expression turned serious. Don't worry, my father has already sent his best guards to search for them. They won't get away with what they have done. She left the room briefly, and Ike let out a slow breath. She still could hardly believe the events that had unfolded. His shoulder throbbed. It was tightly bandaged, and the bleeding had stopped. He gingerly touched the area and silently thanked the physician and the princess's family for saving his life. A short while later, the king and queen entered the room with Princess Obioma. Ike tried to sit up straighter out of respect. Despite the pain, he swung his legs over the side of the bed and attempted to bow his head, but the king hurried forward. Stay, don't strain yourself, the king said, gently motioning for Ike to remain seated. The king's eyes, though stern by nature, were not unkind. The queen stood beside him, her face sympathetic. Ike's heart pounded. He felt ashamed to be in front of them after what happened. Your Majesties, he began nervously. I am so sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve your mercy, or I swear I never wanted to cause any harm. I was deceived and forced, but I take responsibility for my part. If you wish to punish me, I understand. I only beg that you believe I meant no evil. The king and queen listened quietly. Princess Obioma had told them much of Ike's story already, but hearing Ike speak so sincerely himself made a strong impression. The king cleared his throat. Ikemefuna, is it? He asked. Yes, your majesty, Ike replied, bowing his head. We have heard a great deal about you, the king continued. It seemed fate has intertwined our lives twice now. My daughter owes her life to you, not once but twice. For that, my wife and I are eternally grateful. The queen nodded in agreement, offering Ike a gentle smile. The king went on. Princess Obioma has spoken on your behalf, telling us that you were brought into this against your will. I want to hear it from you directly. Tell me everything from the beginning so that I understand why a good man like you ended up in such company. So Ike recounted his tale once more in full detail about Udi Village, how he worked hard with his sister, how Obaino, whom he trusted, lured him with a prospect of honest work at a farm. He described meeting Okeke and Ifeatu, the night where they woke him and revealed their true intentions, and how they threatened his life. Ike's voice trembled as he remembered the fear and the moment Ifeatu decided to shoot the princess. Finally, he explained how he acted on impulse to save Princess Obioma and took the bullet himself. Throughout the story, the king's face remained serious, but he did not interrupt. The queen occasionally gasped softly, especially hearing how Ike was threatened with death. Princess Obioma stayed beside her father, watching Ike with compassion in her eyes. When Ike finished, he bowed his head again. "That's the truth, Your Majesty. I regret not trusting my instincts and coming here. If I had listened to the warnings, none of this would have happened. I have brought trouble to your land. I'm deeply sorry." The king let out a slow breath. "Ikemefuna, you have been through so much. It seems you are as much a victim of those thieves as we are. In fact, you might have suffered most, considering your injury." He glanced at Ike's bandaged shoulder. "I believe you," the king continued, "and I forgive you for any trespass against us. Because I see that your heart is noble. You risked your life to protect my daughter, and for that, you have my gratitude and my pardon." Tears of relief sprang to Ike's eyes. "Thank you, Your Majesty, thank you," he said, voice choked with emotion. The queen stepped forward then and placed a small soft hand on Ike's injured shoulder. "Bless you, Ikemefuna. We could have lost our daughter last night if not for you. You will not be punished. Please focus on getting well. Consider yourself a guest of the royal family until you are fully recovered." Ike was overwhelmed by their kindness. He hadn't expected such understanding. "You are too kind. I don't know how I can ever repay you for this mercy." The king actually gave a tiny smile. The first Ike had seen on his stern face. Sometimes the best way to repay kindness is to live a good life and share kindness with others. From what I hear, you were already doing that in caring for your sister and working hard. Continue on that path. Just then, a guard arrived at the door and bowed. "Your Majesty, pardon the interruption. The thieves had been captured." "Oh, thank goodness," the queen exclaimed. Princess Obioma let out a sigh of relief. Ike felt a weight lift off his shoulder at those words. The king's eyebrows rose. "All three of them?" "Yes, Your Majesty," the guard confirmed. "Your men caught them trying to flee through the eastern road out of Isu at first flight. They had their horses and were attempting to escape into the forest. Our soldiers ambushed them. There was a brief struggle, but they have been detained. They are being held outside under guard, awaiting your judgment." "Very well," the king nodded. "We will come soon." As the guard left, the king turned back to Ike. "It seems justice will be served swiftly. Do you wish to see them?" Ike hesitated. Part of him was furious at what Obioma had done to him, and at Okeke and Ifat for threatening everyone. But another part of him felt sorrow that his friend had chosen such a dark path. "I am not sure, Your Majesty. Obioma was my friend since childhood, but after what he did, I don't know if I can bear to face him." Princess Obioma placed a comforting hand on Ike's arm. "You don't have to see them if you don't want to. You need to rest." Ike nodded quietly, deciding it was best not to face them in this weakened state. He also feared that seeing Obioma in chains might break his heart more. The king and queen excused themselves to deal with the captured criminals, assuring Ike they would return later. Princess Obioma stayed with Ike. She brought him a bowl of warm broth the physician had sent to strengthen him, and she even helped feed him when his one arm proved clumsy. Ike felt a little embarrassed being tended to, but the princess did it with such care that he felt more grateful than awkward. Meanwhile, outside the palace courtyard, the three captured thieves knelt with their hands bowed behind their backs, surrounded by armed guards. Okeke and Ifatu were angry, defeated expressions, while Obaino's face was streaked with tears and death, his eyes downcast. The king and queen, accompanied by some village elders, confronted them. The king's voice thundered with authority as he declared their crimes, breaking into the palace, threatening the royal family, theft, and attempt to murder. None of the thieves could meet the king's face. Okeke tried to stammer an excuse about poverty driving them, but the king silenced them with a raise of his hand. "You will face the consequences of your actions," the king pronounced. By the customs of the land, serious crimes against the crown could be punishable by long imprisonment or even death. But being a just ruler, the king decided You will be taken to the village prison and await trial. Your fate will be decided according to our laws. For now, be grateful you still draw breath. Obaino finally dared to lift his head. Your Majesty, how is Ikemefuna? Is he alive? He asked in a broken voice. The king glared at Obaino, thinking of how this young man had betrayed his own friend. He lives. No thanks to you, he said sternly. You should pray for forgiveness for what you have done. Obaino opened his mouth as if to say something else, but then lowered his head again. Silent tears dripping onto the dusty ground. The king signaled the guards, take them away. With that, Okeke, Ifat and Obaino were dragged to the village jail, where they would remain locked up, left to ponder their misdeeds. Over the next several days, Ike remained in the palace to recover. The news spread through Isu of how a brave farmer from another village had saved the princess from robbers. Many in the village were curious about him. Some palace servants who came to bring Ike food or change his bandages looked at him with great respect, calling him our hero. Ike felt shy about it. He didn't think of himself as a hero. Princess Obioma visited Ike every morning and evening, spending time chatting with him. As the days passed, they learned more about each other. Ike spoke of Nwaka, telling funny and loving stories about his little sister and how she was his only family. Princess Obioma listened with delight, eager to hear about Ike's life in Udi, his farm work, the way the village gathered under the great Iroko tree in the evenings, and how clear the water of Udi River was under the midway sun. In return, the princess shared some of her own life. She was indeed the only child of the king and queen. She loved reading and learning new dances. She told Ike about the traditions of Isu, such as the upcoming annual Carnival dance, a grand festival that was only a few days away. Ike listened with interest as she described how the whole village would celebrate with music, dance, and feasting. Sometimes, Ike could hardly believe he was talking freely with a princess, but Obioma's gentle nature made it easy. To each other, in those moments, they were just a young man and a young woman sharing their hearts. One afternoon, as Ike was able to walk around a bit, Princess Obioma took him to the palace garden for fresh air. They strolled slowly along a path lined with flowering bushes. The sky was bright blue, and birds hopped on the branches singing. Ike felt content. This is a beautiful garden, he remarked, pausing to admire a butterfly that fluttered past. Obioma smiled. I used to play here when I was a child. I always loved the butterflies. My mother calls this place the Garden of Peace. Whenever I feel sad or confused, I come here and it calms me. Ike nodded. I can see why. He looked at her and said in sincere tone, Princess Obioma, I can never repay you and your parents for the kindness you have shown me, allowing me to heal here, treating me not as a criminal but as an honored guest. I am truly grateful. Princess Obioma shook her head. It's us who are grateful to you, Ike. You saved my life twice. No amount of kindness on our part could equal what you have done. She hesitated, then added softly, you know, after that day at the river, I prayed I would meet my rescuer again someday to thank him properly. It seems the gods heard my prayer in the most unexpected way. Ike felt warmth in his chest at her words and the way she looked at him. He smiled a little bashfully. I'm glad I got to see you again too, though I wish it hadn't been under such frightening circumstances. They shared a gentle laugh at that. As much as Ike was enjoying her company, he knew he could not stay in the palace forever. His sister must be terribly worried by now. So that evening, Ike told the princess that he intended to return home to Udi the next day. Nwaka has been alone for many days. She doesn't even know if I'm alive or dead. I need to go back to her. Princess Obioma's face fell slightly, though she understood. Of course, she must be so worried. You're right. You should go home to her. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Will you come back to visit sometime? Or at least send word that you are alright? Ike noticed the hopeful tone in her voice, and it touched his heart. If I'm welcome, I will come back, he said gently, and you are always welcome in Udi as well, though I suspect a princess doesn't often travel so freely. Princess Obioma giggled softly. Well, my mother is actually from Udi. I have cousins there, so who knows, I might have reason to visit. But she did mention that she might make a reason if she needed to. They shared one last evening together, talking until the candles burned low. Before she left him to rest, the princess handed Ike a small wrapped bundle. This is for you. Curious, Ike unwrapped it and found a beautifully woven neck pendant on a cord. It was a simple carving of a bird in flight, made of polished wood and painted in bright colors. It's beautiful, Ike said, touched. It belongs to my grandfather, Obioma explained. He told me it's a symbol of safe journeys and true hearts. I want you to have it, so that you are protected on your way home and so that you remember us here. Ike was deeply moved. He knew this was a precious item. Thank you, princess. I will treasure it always. He wanted to say so much more, how he would never forget her kindness or her smile, but the words caught in his throat. Instead, he simply bowed his head respectfully and sincerely. The next morning, Ike was strong enough to travel. The king and queen provided a horse and a small escort to ensure Ike's safe journey back to Udi, a kindness that surprised and honored him. Before he left, the king also pressed a leather pouch into Ike's hand. He jingled with coins. Take this, the king said. It's a token of our gratitude. Use it to help your family or your farm. We owe you that much at least. Ike opened his mouth to protest. It was likely more money than he had ever possessed. But the king raised his hand to stop him. You will not refuse. It would offend me if you did, he said firmly, though there was kindness in his eyes. So Ike thanked him deeply for everything. The queen gave Ike a gentle embrace, surprising him again with her warmth. Take care, brave boy. May you have a safe journey. Finally, Princess Obioma came forward to say farewell. She was dressed in a lovely yellow gown, and in the morning sun, she looked like a flower in bloom. Ike felt his heart ache at parting from her, a feeling he had never experienced before. Goodbye, Ike, she said softly. May you travel safely. Don't forget your promise to visit. Goodbye, Princess Obioma, Ike said, bowing and also giving a small earnest smile. I will never forget you or your kindness. I promise I will come if I can. They looked at each other for a moment that felt both long and too short, and then Ike turned and mounted the horse. With a final wave, he and the king's guards departed, heading down the road back to Udi. It was a day's journey by horse back to Udi. As Ike neared his village in the afternoon, he thanked the guards who had escorted him and told them he could travel the last part alone. He felt it might cost too much of a stay if royal guards entered the small village. The guards, after ensuring he was close to home and safe, bid him farewell and returned to Isu. Ike walked the last half mile to his hut. The sun was beginning to lower, casting golden light on the familiar fields and palm trees of Udi. He took a deep breath of the warm, familiar air. There was no place like home. He spotted the small hut with the old thatch roof and saw smoke rising gently from the cooking fire outside. Nwaka must be preparing the evening meal. Before Ike reached the hut, Nwaka, who had been anxiously looking down the road as she had done every day since he left, spotted him. She froze for a second, not believing her eyes. Then, with a cry of joy, she dropped the wooden spoon she was holding and sprinted towards him. "Ike, brother!" Nwaka called, tears streaming down her face. "Nwaka!" Ike called back, opening his arms. She nearly knocked him over as she embraced him tightly. For a long moment, neither of them could speak. Nwaka was sobbing with relief, and Ike's eyes were wet as well. "You are back. You are back," Nwaka kept saying, holding onto him as if he might disappear. "I was so afraid you wouldn't come back." Ike stroked his sister's hair gently. "I'm here. I'm fine now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to have made you worry." He guided her back towards the hut, and they sat down on a bench outside. Nwaka looked at Ike's arms, which was in a sling and bandaged beneath his shirt. She gasped. "You are hot. What happened? Someone hurt you in Isu?" Ike realized Nwaka knew nothing of the event, and he felt a pang of guilt for what she must have gone through, not knowing if he was safe. He held her hands and said softly, "It's a long story, but I will tell you everything." And then, as the sun set over Udi, Ike recounted the tale to his sister. He told her how Obioma had tricked him and how they forced him to join a plot to rob the palace. At this, Nwaka's eyes went wide with shock, and she squeezed Ike's hand tightly. "Oh, Ike, I knew something was wrong. That dream? Our parents tried to warn us." Ike nodded sadly. "You were right. I should have listened. I will always regret not heeding that warning." He continued, describing the terrifying night at the palace, how he fought to threaten the princess, and how Ike couldn't stand by. When he explained how he jumped in front of the princess and got shot, Nwaka let out a cry and covered her mouth, fresh tears in her eyes. She looked at his bandaged shoulder, realizing how close she came to losing her brother forever. "But the gods were kind," Ike said gently, patting her hand. "The wound was not fatal, and I survived." He then spoke of the aftermath, how the princess recognized him and pleaded for his life, how the king's physician healed him, and how the king forgave him after learning the truth. Nwaka listened with rapt attention, eyes wide at every twist and turn. When Ike mentioned that Obioma and the others were caught and thrown into jail, Nwaka shook her head in disbelief. "I cannot fathom that Obioma would do this. To think he was ready to let you die or even harm others for money. I never liked how he behaved, but I never thought he could betray you so." Ike sighed, a mixture of sadness and anger in his heart. Obioma lost his way. The Obioma I grew up with is not the same man I saw that night. Greed can change people, Nwaka. It's a hard lesson I've learned. Finally, Ike told her about Princess Obioma, how she cared for him, how kind she was, and how he was able to return home thanks to the royal family's help. He didn't hide his admiration for the princess, and Nwaka could see a special light in her brother's eyes when he spoke of Obioma. Nwaka gave him a sly little smile through her tears. "It seems the princess has won my brother's heart." Ike flushed and looked away shyly. "Don't be ridiculous. She is a princess, and I am just a farmer. I'm simply grateful to her, that's all." But Nwaka just patted his shoulder lightly, careful of his wound. "Grateful, yes. Well, I think she must have seen something special in you too, Ike. After all, she traveled all the way here because of you, didn't she?" Ike frowned in confusion. Traveled here? What do you mean? Now, it was Nwaka's turn to look puzzled. The princess. She was here in Udi yesterday and the day before, visiting her cousins. I heard she specifically asked about you, but of course you weren't here yet. I didn't know then if you were even alive, and seeing her made me worry because I wondered if perhaps she came to tell me bad news about you. But she told me you were recovering and would return soon. It eased my heart. Ike was amazed. Princess Obioma was here in our village. Nwaka nodded. Yes, she said she would return soon to see you. She also said she had an invitation for us. Ike felt his heart leap at the thought that Obioma had come to his village, even when he wasn't there. He also realized that must be why he got an escort almost until Udi. Likely the princess arranged for his safe travel home while she visited Udi herself. What invitation? He asked, curiosity growing. Nwaka smiled brightly. She invited both of us to the Isu Carnival dance in a few days. She wanted to ask us personally. I couldn't give an answer without you, but I told her if you came home safe, we would surely come. Despite his soreness, Ike felt a surge of excitement. To be invited to a royal carnival dance was a great honor, and more than that, the thought of seeing Obioma again so soon filled him with joy. If you are willing, Nwaka, then yes, we'll go, Ike said. Nwaka laughed. Of course I'm willing. I have never been to a carnival like that. Oh, we must prepare. I need to fix up my best dress, and we should find something nice for you to wear too. For the first time in many days, Ike and Nwaka shared a genuine laugh. They were together again and the future looked bright. Ike silently thanked fate for bringing him home alive and giving him a chance to see the princess again under happy circumstances. A few days later, Ike and Nwaka made the journey to Isu once more, but this time under very different circumstances. Ike's shoulder was healing well, and he carried himself with renewed strength. They are dressed in their finest clothes. Ike wore a clean tunic of soft cotton with a colorful woven belt that Nwaka had made for him. And Nwaka wore a lovely blue dress with embroidered patterns, though simple compared to the finery of royal folk. Their attire was neat and they felt proud. The princess had sent a horse cart to fetch them, driven by a kindly palace servant, so they wouldn't have to walk the whole way. As they traveled, Nwaka's excitement was contagious. She chatted about what the carnival might be like, wondering what kinds of dances and food they would see. When they arrived in Isu, the village was transformed in festive decorations. Bright cloth banners hung between huts and along the street. People were dressed in vibrant colors, and the sound of drums and flutes filled the air. It seemed the entire kingdom had gathered for the celebration. The carnival was held in a large open ground near the palace. There were stalls with delicious foods, roasted meats, spicy soups, sweet fruits, and vendors selling beads and bangles. Children ran about playing games, and performers were dancing on one side to entertain early crowds. Ike and Nwaka were welcomed by an attendant who recognized them immediately. "You must be Ikemefuna and Nwaka," the man said with a respectful bow. He had a bright smile. "The princess has been expecting you. Please, come this way." They were led to a special area near the front of the gathering, where important guests sat. Ike was a bit uncomfortable, not used to being treated as a VIP, but Nwaka was wide-eyed with wonder at everything. Soon, the royal family made their entrance. The king and queen arrived dressed in magnificent traditional attire. The king wore a rich robe with golden accents and a cap, and the queen had beads around her hair and a long flowing dress. They took their seats on raised chairs, overseeing the crowd. The crowd cheered their arrival. Then came Princess Obioma. She was a vision of grace and beauty. She wore a flowing gown of deep green, the color of forest leaves, with intricate embroidery. Her hair was braided with gold threads, and she had bangles jingling on her wrists. When she stepped forward and waved, the people cheered even louder. Clearly, she was much loved by her people. Obioma's eyes scanned the crowd and quickly found Ike and Nwaka standing off to the side. Her face lit up with happiness on seeing them. Breaking down the formal procession, she hurried toward them. Several people looked surprised as the princess ran with youthful excitement, but they smiled, knowing her kind heart. "You made it!" Princess Obioma exclaimed as she reached Ike and Nwaka. They both bowed deeply, but she motioned them to rise. Before Ike could say a formal greeting, the princess did something bold. She gave Nwaka a friendly hug and then took both of Ike's in hers briefly, a smile on her face. Ike felt his heart skip. He returned her smile warmly. "We are honored to be here, Princess," Ike said sincerely. "Thank you for inviting us." "I'm so happy you came," she replied. She looked at Nwaka. "Nwaka, thanks for coming." Nwaka blushed, thrilled that the princess of a kingdom is greeting her. "Thank you for having us, Your Highness. This is also wonderful. I've never seen such a celebration." Princess Obioma laughed softly. "Please, just call me Obioma. Today, we are simply friends enjoying a festival, alright?" Nwaka nodded, smiling widely. Obioma was then called by an attendant. It was time for the formal dance to begin. "Enjoy the carnival," she told them. "I'll be back shortly. And don't forget to try the pepper soup at the food stall. It's delicious." With a wink, she hurried back to join the other dancers. Ike and Nwaka watched the performances with delight. There were groups of dancers from different parts of the kingdom showcasing their dances. Some fast and acrobatic, others slow and graceful. Drummers beat rhythms that made the ground throb, and flute players added sweet melodies. After the performances, the floor opened for general dancing. Men and women from the crowd joined in, dancing in circles. Nwaka even pulled Ike into one round dance, and they laughed like children as they tried to follow the energetic step. As evening fell and lamps were lit around the carnival, the moment came for a special tradition. It was announced by the chief herald that as part of the festivities, the princess would now choose a partner for a royal dance under the moonlight. A dance that celebrated not just the carnival but also the hope of love and unity in the kingdom. Ike had heard of this tradition and from Obioma's stories and from the villagers' whispers during the day. The air was filled with anticipation. Many young men in the crowd straightened up, each secretly hoping the princess might honor him with a dance. It was known that often the one the princess chose could become a favored suitor. Ike felt his heart pounding again. He certainly did not expect her to choose him. After all, he was an outsider and a commoner, despite his heroic deed. He stood next to Nwaka, watching as Princess Obioma stepped gracefully into the center of the dance area. A soft drumbeat began, accompanied by a mellow flute tune. The princess moved elegantly to the rhythm, her skirt swelling as she danced alone for a few moments, as was the custom while she made her choice. Then, with the eyes of the crowd upon her, Princess Obioma turned and walked towards the spectators as the drums continued their soft beat. People parted to let her through, wondering whom she would pick. Ike watched, his breath caught in his throat. To his astonishment, Princess Obioma was coming in his direction. Surely, he thought, she must be heading for some noble son standing behind him. He even glanced over his shoulder quickly to see if someone important was there. But no one stood behind him, only villagers eagerly watching. And now the princess stepped right in front of Ike. For a moment, everything seemed to go silent in Ike's world. The music, just a faint hum. Princess Obioma looked up at him, her eyes bright and warm. She extended her hand to Ike and asked him a clear, loving voice, "Ikemefuna, will you dance with me?" A collective gasp went through the crowd, followed by a hush. All eyes were on the simple farmer who had won the princess's heart. Ike felt every emotion at once: surprise, joy, a hint of fear, but overwhelming. He felt happiness. His hand trembled as he reached out and took her hand gently. Yes, yes, I will, he replied softly. Princess Obioma led Ike to the center of the dance space. The drummers, sensing the princess's choice, picked up a gentle, enchanting rhythm. The flute and a kora, a kind of harp, blended in a melodious tune. Under the silver light of the moon and the golden glow of lanterns, the princess and Ike began to dance. Ike had danced before at village gatherings, but never a dance like this, and never with such an important partner. He was a little stiff at first, conscious of everyone watching, but Obioma whispered, "Just follow me, Ike, you are doing fine." She moved with such grace and confidence that Ike soon relaxed. He placed one hand respectfully on her waist and held her hand with his other, mirroring the steps she guided him through. They swayed and turned to the rhythm. The world around them faded. For Ike, it felt like only he and Obioma existed in that moment. Her smile gave him courage, and he even twirled her once in a playful move that made her laugh with delight. The crowd watched in silence at first, amazed by the princess's bold choice. But as they saw how happy she looked and remembered the story of how this humble man had saved her life, their surprise turned into approval. Someone in the crowd began to cheer, and then others joined. Soon, applause and cheers rose loudly. The villagers of Isu and guests from other places clapped to the beat of the music, celebrating the unlikely but beautiful pairing before them. Nwaka watched with tears of joy in her eyes, clapping along. She could hardly believe that her brother, the same kind, quiet Ike, who had worked so hard and expected so little from life, was in the center of a grand carnival, dancing with a princess who clearly cared for him deeply. The king and queen looked on from their thrones, and while some might have expected them to be surprised or disapproving, they were smiling. The queen leaned to her husband and said, "It seems our daughter has found the one her heart beats for." The king stroked his beard thoughtfully, but he too had a smile, knowing that sometimes the bravest and kindest of men came from the most humble of places. When the dance ended, Princess Obioma and Ike stood facing each other. The crowd erupted in celebration, drums thundering and jubilating now. The princess was slightly breathless, and her cheeks were flushed with happiness. Ike realized he was still gently holding her hand, and he let go, bowing his head in respect and also to hide how emotional he felt. Princess Obioma, however, reached out and lifted his chin with a finger, a gesture full of fondness. "No need for that," she whispered. Then, in front of the cheering crowd, the princess embraced Ikemefuna. The cheers grew even louder. Under the starry sky, Ike closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth of her hug and savoring this moment, which felt like a beautiful dream. He thought of how much had changed in such a short time, from nearly losing his life in a dark night to finding a new hope and love under the moonlight. Nwaka joined them, and Princess Obioma pulled her into the joyful hug as well. The three of them laughed, surrounded by applause and music. That night marked a new beginning. Ike and Nwaka stayed as honored guests at the palace after the carnival ended. The next day, before they returned to Udi, the king and queen formally gave Ike their blessing to court Princess Obioma, seeing how much she cared for him and remembering his bravery and good heart. And so, a simple farmer from Udi and a princess from Isu fell in love, their lives forever bound by acts of courage, kindness, and the gentle weaving of fate. And that was how their love story began. True courage is not in fighting or shouting the loudest, but in standing up for what is right, even when you are afraid. Ikemefuna's story, kindness and bravery, show that no matter how poor or ordinary you may seem, a good heart can open doors to greatness and love. Never betray your values for quick gain, and always listen to the voice of wisdom, even if it comes in a dream. Thank you so much for watching this amazing story about Ike and the Princess on African Stories by V. If you liked it and felt inspired with their journey, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories by V, and do not forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.